Good evening then. Let us begin. So, two more cinematics to digest. Although, obviously, if people want to discuss them, go right ahead. I have got my own considerable, in the end, review uploading at the moment. I have watched a little bit of it back. I am going to get some shit, I'm afraid, because I played bits of the cinematics and I now realise on the playback that it's a little bit quiet. I don't understand why it sounded fine through my headphones. I hadn't really monked about with anything, but that's why we should do. I should have done a sound check, but I didn't. So, yeah, I'm going to get people going. So, hi, Pig. I'm going to get people going. Oh, that was a bit quiet. I had actually. It shouldn't actually matter. I had actually intended to edit out any bits of the cinematic that I wasn't talking over, but because I then made a comment about a couple of things, it was going to be too messy. Good evening, everyone. So, yes. If you haven't seen the cinematics, by the way, then you should have seen them before you came on here. I'm quite sure someone would have uploaded them already. It should have actually already be uploaded. The problem is it didn't go. The scenario didn't go live until like 3 hours ago, and then I was doing something at the time, and then I came on to do it, and then I wanted to have a think about it because my instant reaction was one of criticism, and I thought I've already been quite critical of things. So I better have a think about it and just make sure I'm not just picking fault where it's not really needed. But then I actually found even more faults when I mulled it over in my own mind, and I thought, no, this is terrible. This is absolutely dreadful. So, you know. And then I did it. I did the video. Hi, Fraser. Viol, Brandon, Iron Template, Gareth, and Dreadthane as well. I did the review, which lasted about half an hour. And then I was just coming to the end of it, and I looked up there, and it wasn't recording. I thought, shit, I had the lights on, which I've got on now, even though it's really crazy hot again. It's gone mad hot. Bloody hell. Hi, lazy man. And so I had to do it all again. And it's about 25 minutes or something. Really annoying. So to do it again. Oh my god. But anyway, so for anyone who's new, hello. All you need to do really is sort of say what you want to talk about here. Simple as that. How is my plan going for summer, even though the heat keeps raising? They're completely out the window. I had so many plans. I haven't done anything. I haven't done a new trailer for the channel. I haven't painted enough models to play a game of Warhammer. I'm now regretting choosing the Skaven because they're not the fiddliest models to paint, but they are not as easy as the Nighthaunt, which I also have models for. I am thinking of, like a rat, abandoning ship and finishing off the Plague Monks that I currently have on my board, and then just switch into Nighthaunt in the belief that maybe I could paint a load of Nighthaunt up quicker than the remaining Skaven, because I could probably do a bog standard job on them. Yes, I have seen the new cinematics. Yes, 2 of them. I am not fans. They're not good. From a story point of view, visually, of course, they're amazing, as they always will be. But time to invest in portable AC. There's only one person came up with it was actually probably you. A sensible way to get it done. It's a lot of effort for what, again, every time it's hot, it might be the last hot day of summer. This is unfortunate fact of it. But no, I don't think it is time. I won't be able to record videos with it running. Well, no. I mean, I can go for the period of time I have to record things. I can do without, but I'm not going to get one. It's not actually worth it. I have sent away for a cheap evaporative cooler because I've heard some good things about them. The problem is they come from China, so it takes forever to get here. So yeah, I'll just have to accept that I'm not going to get a lot done this summer. That's all. Can't do it. Yeah, have I seen the 3% overall nerf to rate? Yes, I have. So it's obvious. They were doing silly amounts of damage. It's obvious that certain classes were going to get nerfed. Rogues got nerfed as well by pretty much the same amount. Actually, slightly more. Subtlety and Assassination got nerfed by 4%. Subtlety by 3%. No, Combat. Outlaw by 3%. So yes. But it was obvious. I mean, like when I was doing the testing on Friday. Now, there's certain scenario of, in situations where the ret's not particularly going to shine, all right, I wasn't necessarily top of damage, except because it was progress, I often was anyway, just because of Retribution passive, that bloody Retribution passive. They might have nerfed it, excuse me, but if you've got people regularly dropping like flies, which you do when you're testing a boss, it makes you look better than you are. But even in live stuff, in Antorus, we were doing too much. I mean, that's fairly obvious. What's my opinion on Ret in BFA? Would I like to see anything change? Yes. They have already suggested... I've done the Ret thing on Saturday, but I've already talked about two things that they were already... Well, I haven't. I'm not allowed to. But there were things... There are ideas they have that they're just not doing at the moment. And they may never do. Buy a massive block of ice and just sit on it. That might not do me any good. That might give me, like, piles. I will actually... I don't know... Because that is the problem here, yeah. It's not just that... It actually gets warmer at night. The temperature goes up. And that's because none of it's escaping. I've got that window open because you can keep hearing things. There's a bit of ice cream van in the bloody video I uploaded, which is annoying. Hi, Frozen. Would a water-cooled PC cut down the heat in the room? I have a liquid-cooled PC. So... It's not warm to the touch. The PC isn't actually that warm to the... It's not warm at all to the touch, in fact. Cooling is pretty good in this. It bloody should be for the price. It is just hot. It's not hotter in this room than it is in any other room on this side of the house now. And it's no hotter than it gets in the bedroom in the morning, which is on the side, on the east, basically. So... But it's, and the vent's technically over there anyway, but I've got a fan going round about my legs just so that it's not horrendous on the mic. I'm not going to try Total War Warhammer anytime soon. It might well be my type of game. The problem is I already have a lot of PC games. Well, I don't have a lot, but I have a number of PC games that can take a lot of time. Like I've been playing a lot of Lord of the Rings Online lately, which is what I want. It's actually the one thing I wanted to do this summer that I've actually been able to do. That's it on my big list of things to do, and that's not exactly a job to do. But it's a thing I've been doing. But I really don't want to get more PC games. I'm not ruling out trying it at some point, but I'm not getting more PC games. I want to do other things, or at least manage the ones I am playing better. Because when there's multiple PC games that you'd like to play, and at least two of them, technically there's 5 I'd like to play, and there's only 2 of them I am playing, at that point you don't really need to add a 6th. If you can already only play 2 of them, then you don't need to be adding a 6th one. Oh, back to the Ret one, sorry. Any changes like Blessed of Kings? No, I wouldn't expect any changes with that. I would just give that one up as a bad job. I mean, I haven't played any Total War ever, so I wouldn't know from that point of view either. But what I want to do is to play the physical game. The physical game is way better than a computer game. The advantage of a computer game, I've always said, is that it's there whenever you want it to be there. So, I mean, that's ultimately what it's about. A computer game is just more accessible, but I don't find it any more fun. In fact, it's less fun than a physical game, a tabletop game, say. But anyway. I had to find myself defending Sylvanas, actually, bizarrely enough, because Peculiar on Wowhead said, she tweeted, oh, I wonder if Sylvanas will lie to the other Horde leaders about, like, booby trapping Lordaeron. To which I had to say, well, not only would they have all seen anyway, because they were just upstairs, but also, there's nothing wrong with doing what she did in that particular case. She lost the city, so obviously what you do at that point is set fire to it. Or in her case, like, unleash a load of light. Won't be long till we'll complain about scraping ice off the car. Well, I rather that, because the problem is, when I have to scrape ice off the car, that's like 5 to 10 minutes of annoyance. It's usually about 5 minutes. Because where I have the car parked, it's sort of sheltered a bit by the house. So that's a minor annoyance. Obviously, I don't like the dangerous driving conditions. But again, it's a limited amount of my day. When it's hot, that's my entire day ruined. Completely knackered. I am onto my 4th litre of Vimto today. And there'll be a 5th to come before I go to bed, I'm sure. Temperature will be cooler tomorrow. I need to keep checking on the weather. But I think I had seen that, yes. That it'll be cooler tomorrow. But it still won't be cool enough, I bet. There's no... Well, it's significantly cooler tomorrow by the looks of it. But anyway, we'll just have to see. But, you know... But yeah, I'm going to switch to night haunts. Because surely they've got to be easier to paint. Hi, Wormtongue. I mean, the sleeping side of it isn't terrible. That's not too bad. Because I have 2 windows in the bedroom. And you can sometimes get a bit of a cycle. You know. The only annoying thing is, on one of the windows, it does actually blow. They've got like these Venetian blind things. Which are annoying as hell. And it sort of blows them about sometimes. But not enough for me to have to get up and shut the window, which is alright. So you take it that Undercity will be phased like Darkshore Blasted Lands. Yeah. Once you've done the scenario, until you've done the scenario, it's still as it is. Until I suppose, yeah, I think until you've done the scenario, I guess. After some time playing with the GCD change 5+ character, that's fine. The sky ain't falling. Well, it's not. The sky isn't falling isn't the same as it's fine. It's still not fine. Just because philosophically it's a bad decision to have utility abilities that you need to be able to press instantly affected by the global cooldown. That just shouldn't be. And I also think it's doubly disgraceful that for some classes it's not on the global cooldown and for others it is. Never mind what the temperature is outside, I'm only interested in the temperature inside. The temperature in this house, in this room that I am now, is hotter than it is outside. Don't care what it is outside. I actually did have to go to the outside today because I had to drive to Hull and back. Which was fine. That was lovely because I have air conditioning in my car. But not so nice once I actually got into the house. Did I see Panzer from Trade Chat? No, I haven't seen anything Panzer said. I don't really follow her on Twitter. I follow Peculiar. Let's have a look. She doesn't like being the bad guy because she plays Horde. She doesn't. She's not the bad guy because she's Horde. Sylvanas is the bad guy. Doesn't make the Horde the bad guy. All right. The fact that this is what I keep arguing. The fact that the majority of the Horde are following Sylvanas still. You can always pretend that you're one of the small number of people that's not going with it. If all I would say is this, if you're a player who gets that involved in it, that you'll think to yourself, I don't want to be the bad guy. All I'm going to say is this. In the scenario where you get the option of a plague canister or not, you'd better not take that option. If you take the option of using the plague canister, you don't get to say, that you're a good guy. That's all I would say. Everyone gets the mask. You're all going to be fine in it. But if you take the canister, you're not the good guy. But yeah, you can always pretend you're one of the small number that doesn't approve of Sylvanas' actions. Because nothing you do in the scenario is evil. Unless you use the canister. Everything else is fine. Can I tell you about the potential AoE changes? No. It might not even come till 8.1. They've already threatened that with some classes. Might be that we don't get any change till 8.1. Would Rets be better having a holy resource bar? No. The holy power works fine. It's absolutely fine. The beginning of the cinematic is almost the same one at the end of Human Campaign. Which cinematic? Do you mean the second cinematic where it's like Arthas? Yeah, it is. It's supposed to be like that. It's exactly the same. You've got that overhead shot in exactly the same place as they walk through. Anduin throws open the doors exactly like Arthas threw open the doors. Anduin stops at the same point Arthur stops. He's got the sword thing. The only difference is he doesn't kneel down. And you have that scenario where, you know, young prince comes in. All right, he's a king now, but he's the guy who's going to take over. And you've got the current incumbent of the throne there who's about to relinquish it. Obviously, the circumstances of that are different. But yeah, that was supposed to be that. And that cinematic, all the way up to that point, until they started opening their mouths, the cinematic was great. I only had one minor quibble with it, and it was a very minor one, not worth mentioning. But everything that happened after they started talking was complete nonsense. Absolute rubbish. Sylvanas isn't the bad guy. She's been true to her character. Well, bad guys are also true to their character. But I would say something has fundamentally shifted in Sylvanas' character. Sylvanas, previously, she was always ruthless. But previously, she was actually fairly self-sacrificing for her people. That has changed. And it changed in this. There's a number... I can't believe how many people claim to have read this and yet seem to ignore the first few chapters. In this book, she makes it clear, absolutely clear, that the Forsaken are basically her slaves. You know, she behaves the way she behaves, because again, it's the thinking she does, not what she says to Nathanos, but what she thinks in the novel. And that's basically the attitude of a domestic abuser. You know, they're absolutely fine as long as you do exactly what they say. It's only when you don't do what they want, that's when they start being abusive. And then blame it on the victim. That's exactly what she's like. Vote Bane for War Chief. Bane, right, here's the thing. Sourfang, Blizzard are making a bigger hash of, in terms of character development, than anyone. Like, I have no issue with the character development of any character, including Sylvanas. Right? I say that a lot of the motivations are nonsense, the writing is poor. But the characterization of Sylvanas, totally fine with that. Bane is an idiot. I mean, anyone who's done it now, it's now live. If you've done it from the Horde's point of view, Bane doesn't say boo to a goose. He does exactly what he's told. No queries at all. In fact, when he did ask a question, Nathanos told him to shut up, and he did. If I was Bane in that situation, I'd have taken that tree trunk off my back and smashed Nathanos off the head with it and told him to be a bit more respectful. But he didn't. But Sourfang's characterization is dreadful, and I'll tell you why. All the way up to nowish, he's been characterized as a fairly strong leader. In this scenario, and in the scenario that follows, in after BFA launches next week, he is basically going to be a shrinking violet. he's going to go crying to mommy rather than standing up to Sylvanas. But I will bet you anything, at some point in the future, he is going to stand up to Sylvanas. And everyone will be going, there you go, that's Varrock Sauerfang, that's what he's like. But how he is at the moment is a whiny little bitch. And so that's just poor. Sorry, I've been missing loads of stuff now. No one is the villain in their own story. Well, that's exactly it. Villains. No. Very few villains actually see themselves as villains. And certainly the big ones in history never. They saw themselves as heroes. You hope we get Alliance and Horde raid bosses this expansion. That would be a bit crap to me. Because they'd have to be the same. Just with a different skin. They'd have to be exactly the same. And that would just seem a bit weak. Unless they were like world bosses, maybe. And also, if it's not a major character, is it really worth it as well? Hiya, Ben. Seems weird to leave. Well, the Silver Moon and Exodar thing is just, I don't know. It is a weird thing, but they've always been like separate to everything else on Azeroth, and they, for whatever reason, I'm sure it's a technical reason, have never really bothered to bring them in line. Did I read that Good War thing? Which Good War thing? Oh, do you mean the... I hope you're not talking about the collector's edition thing. Because actually, the story is... I've seen a little snippet of it, but the snippet I've seen is dreadful. Oh, bugger, I've got to find it now. If that's what you're talking about, I haven't got the physical collector's edition, so I wouldn't know what it's called. I assume that's what you're talking about. It's the only publication I don't know the name of. Crap. Where is it? Oh, what have I done with it? Don't know what I did with it. But anyway, so hold on. I'll just have to abandon it because I don't know where it's gone. But anyway, this is the snippet that I saw because Nobble tweeted it. And it basically says that Sylvanas blames Sauerfang for not killing Malfurion. Because she said in the thing, finish him off and then come and join me. Now, here's the thing. She knew, absolutely knew, that Sauerfang wasn't going to kill Malfurion. He already regretted even attacking him. He said so. He was kneeling down in contrition. He was not going to kill Malfurion. Secondly, that's not just disobeying an order. Sylvanas could have killed him. She stood over Malfurion with her bow. She could have shot him in the face. Several times. She should have killed him, but she didn't. So actually, if that's the story you're talking about, no, that makes it worse. That actually makes the story even more ridiculous, quite frankly. I couldn't believe it. It made it seem even more ridiculous than it actually was already. She was testing Sauerfang bollocks, was she? Her whole strategy, apparently, hinged on killing Malfurion. That was it. That was her entire aim. Her aim, apart from, obviously, the sensible one of preventing the Alliance using, that whole region to shuttle off Azerites to Eastern Kingdoms. Okay, that's fine. That's okay. But her stated aim was to kill Malfurion. Given the opportunity to do so, she turns it down. And it wasn't a test for Saurfang, because she knew Saurfang wouldn't kill him. She knew that. There was no doubt whatsoever. It makes sense in the story. How can it make sense when that bit doesn't make sense? How can anything change the meaning of that that mini bit? I am going to refuse to read anything when it doesn't make sense. It cannot. There's nothing you can say that makes any sense of it. Sylvanas wanted to kill Malfurion. Sylvanas had the opportunity to kill Malfurion. Sylvanas told someone who was not going to kill Malfurion to kill Malfurion, and then she had to come up with some other plan as a backup, which she hadn't even considered ahead of time, because if she'd have even thought of the possibility of not being able to kill Malfurion and needing something else to do, she would have discussed it with Nathanos, because we know she discusses all strategies with Nathanos. It's complete rubbish. It's the most bollocks storytelling ever. It's absolutely shocking. And there is a name now as well, because I unfortunately I have to apologise. Although I knew I didn't know, I was sort of thinking in terms of Alex Afrasiabi, because he always comes across as being very excitable but not really thinking things through. But it's not, because Terran Gregory tweeted whose fault this is. It's a fella called George, doesn't really have many vowels in his surname. George Krustik. I don't know how to pronounce that. Director of Story Creative Development. It's his fault. He's the one who's written this shit, apparently. I imagine, yes, okay, there's a bit of a team there, but he is the one in charge of the story. So, it's their fault. She could be using these examples to destroy his credibility, should he split from her or seek to undermine her leadership later. That's coming up with excuses. That's trying to come up with justifications for it. It's bad writing, because that doesn't make sense either. Saurfang, as well as someone who clearly was never going to kill Malfurion under those circumstances, has also shown that he will obey her orders. He's obeyed her orders all the way up to that point, without hesitation, right? He's without any hesitation. Yes, War Chief. No, War Chief. 3 bags full, War Chief. So that doesn't make sense either. She doesn't need to undermine him. In fact, she's better off with him in charge of the orcs, because someone who takes over from Saurfang might be less willing to follow orders. Also, she can say it was a reward to give Saurfang. She knew he wouldn't kill him. You cannot ignore the fact there was 0 chance of Saurfang killing Malfurion. No chance at all. Even when you try and take account of the fact that from Sylvanas' point of view, she can't understand this concept of orc honour, she nonetheless understands it. She can't, understand why it's a thing, but she knows about it. She's been in the Horde long enough. She's supposedly intelligent. I know her brain is like rotting a bit probably, but she's supposed to be intelligent. No. There was 0 chance of Saurfang killing Malfurion. That's all there is to it. And she would have known that. She would have known that. It's just bad writing. It's terrible writing. Just like in the cinematic was terrible writing today. Absolutely god-awful. Cannot believe how bad it was. He did indeed say he will not strike again. Yes. But he didn't even need to. As I say, he was knelt down in contrition, saying that he regretted his actions. Where do the Tauren troll druids stand? Well, exactly. Quite. That is exactly it, isn't it? You know, there was that meme, which I probably can't find again either. You know, basically you can imagine, especially, you know, all the druids of the Horde going, because this is basically how the meme went. It said, you what? You burned what now? What was that? That would have made a better cinematic than that old soldier tosh they gave us. Having Sylvanas coming back to face off against, you know, some druid, Horde druid, going, what have you just done? What was that? There are 2 cinematics based on the Battle for Lordaeron scenario. Do you think, as a group, the Warcraft team is suffering from burnout? I think certain individuals are. I don't think as a team, no, because not all of the team has done it for that long, and sometimes they move people from one team to another, so that inevitably invigorates you. And I think some people absolutely can work on a game for 15 or more years, if there's anyone that's been working on it that long, and not burn out. You know, so, but I think certain individuals do get burnt out. I think it's inevitable, but not as a team. I wouldn't have said no. Do I think any of the Nath regime are still active or try and return and influence things? Well, that's a loaded question, isn't it? Because Nath regime are not supposed to be demons anymore, because that was retconned. You know. I mean, the idea, as I understand it, is that because demons are... I mean, that's why he wanted Eridar. That's why he wanted to corrupt the Draenei. Because demons lack any sort of focus. They don't have a plan. Whereas Sargeras had a plan. But demons are incapable of following a plan through. So he needed leaders for them, and that's where the Draenei, Eridar came in. So, yeah. I was trying to think of his name, actually. Hamel, yes. Versus Sylvanas. That would have made a better cinematic. Her trying to weasel her way out of that confrontation. That would have been a far more interesting cinematic than Sourfang whining like a bitch. I mean, what was that old soldier cinematic about? He was there going, I don't want to be part of this Horde, but I'm not leaving it, so I'll just let the Alliance kill me. What a wimp. What a coward. You're not going to tell me that fits with Sourfang's characterization up to this point. That's absolutely useless. The actions he carried out, like at the Siege of Lordaeron, although he knew it was for retribution, it was still a battle in a war. He could still behave with honour as he did. There was nothing to throw his life away for. That was an absolute nonsense cinematic. You know. Enjoyable to watch, you know, very watchable, but ultimately rubbish. Do you think they will kill off a named character in BFA like in Legion? Very likely, yes. I don't think it'll be Sylvanas. Although I do think I've already said I do think she's going to sacrifice herself. But if she sacrifices herself, it's not death, as in proper death. They'll just do it, you know, she just gets brought back. You thought they'd have showed a proper epilogue from the Night Elf's point of view. I mean, I don't know. I don't know that I don't know what I would have done for that. I'd have much more, as I say, I'd have much preferred to see something from a Horde Druid's point of view. But again, I mean, that's another sign of bad storytelling. When there's certain obvious issues that you should probably explore that you steer well clear of. Because you know that all it's doing is exposing a giant plot hole. Because effectively, if they were to actually properly think through the story, Sylvanas burning Teldrassil would have done far more harm to the morale of her own side than the Alliance side. Because all it's done is piss off the Alliance. And now she's lost Undercity as a direct result of it. Alright, she shat the bed before she left, but nonetheless, she doesn't have Undercity anymore. And that's not just a Horde city. It's her city. It's her forsaken city. She's now made refugees, again, of her people. And for what? She's done herself more harm. I mean, admittedly, in Stormwind, we've got to put up with the bloody Night Elves. Quite why it's Stormwind that has to take everyone... Alright, it's not okay, actually. It's not just Stormwind that has to take all the refugees. Ironforge has actually had to do that as well with the gnomes. Actually, they got the worst end of the deal. I have to correct myself there. Sylvanas sent the druids to Silithus. Well, yeah, we don't want to say all of them have gone. You know. And also, I'm pretty sure news travels. I'm pretty sure they'll be aware of it. Apart from anything else, they're druids. I mean, there's probably some hippie connection with the land that will tell them, oh, one of the world trees seems a bit hot. Wonder what happened there. She will be the Lich Queen. She already is the Lich Queen. She already is. Because it all goes back to that story, doesn't it? From Cataclysm, was it? Where, yeah, Cataclysm. Where Sylvanas invites Garrosh to look at her new toy. And he says, so what's the difference between you and the Lich King now? And she says, isn't it obvious, War Chief? I serve the Horde. And Garrosh, because he's an imbecile and can't fight his own corner, just goes, what's your clever mouth, bitch? He wasn't very happy. What if in BFA or after BFA we get some Lich King Bolvar story with that death? We might well do. They might well. But the thing is, I mean, I know some people are thinking, oh, we'll probably get it because of the development of Bolvar as the Lich King in Legion for the Death Knight storyline. But like I say, Blizzard pick up and drop characters as it suits their purpose. They never really think about what a character's up to when they're no longer using them. So then if they use them again in the future, they spend about 5 minutes in a pub thinking about what they've been up to for the last few years. So there's no inevitability about it, but I do think there are tantalising options. And it needn't even wait till after BFA. You've got to remember his daughter... Well, you say remember, you may not know, but sorry, you do now. His daughter appears in BFA. So there's a link again to Bolvar in BFA already. I think we're going to... I don't think we're going to avoid Old Gods directly or, you know, in this expansion. I think we're going to go straight for it. You foresee a Windrunner sister dying. I don't think that's what's needed to snap Sylvanas into reality. I think she will snap herself out of her nonsense, but I don't think that's going to be it. Varisa is obviously the likeliest. If a Windrunner had to die, Varisa is the most forgettable. You don't play WoW, should you look into it? Is it a good time to jump in? Oh yeah, start of an expansion is always a good time to jump in. So when did Sylvanas gain the ability to raise the dead without her Val? Ah. Well, maybe they were just hiding. They weren't visibly there, but they may have been there hiding behind the ramparts or something, maybe. Or maybe she has achieved the power to do it without them directly. You would assume she's been working on her skills in... How long has it been since Fall of the Lich King? Must be 8 or 9 years now, mustn't it? She did raise a... Well, the raising of the alliance is not the shocker in that particular situation. The shocker was the fact that she killed and also raised up Horde troops. That was the naughty side of it. Because that was something, again, that Garrosh strictly forbade her to do. Obviously, he's not about to forbid anything anymore, but still. Undead are too incompatible to stay Horde. There won't be an extra faction. There shouldn't be factions for PvE. Like, people keep talking, oh, you know, it's all setting itself up to get rid of factions. I would love it if there were no such thing as factions in PvE because they always cause trouble. However, it doesn't make any sense at this stage in the game to change it. And also, the idea of just getting rid of factions within the storyline makes no sense. Because you have no story once that happens. Lich King fell 10 years ago. Well, there you go then. Was it at 10? Well, it wasn't 2008, was it? Really? Wow. Maybe it's an artifact trait on her bow that lets her raise dead. Well, maybe indeed. The Forsaken are intelligent undead. Well, some of them are. Some of them are not that bright. But yeah, okay, it could be argued that the ones she raised were not necessarily... They might have just been, yeah, animated things that a necromancer back in Warcraft 1 could have done, is what is the point I think you're trying to make, potentially. Yes. You keep reading comments about Nathanos looking not pleased. I don't know that he looked not pleased. I don't think he was happy. Because this is the thing about Nathanos, right? Before I read this, I was actually quite surprised. Because Nathanos just came across to me as being a bit of a smug git, quite frankly. However, that's because he always behaves like a dick, which he does to everyone else. But in the book, he was actually very thoughtful and kind towards the Forsaken, genuinely kind towards them. So I think Nathanos, more so than Sylvanas, like Sylvanas used to be, I think he genuinely sees himself as serving the Forsaken. He's very loyal to Sylvanas, of course, but I think he sees himself as, you know, genuinely, you know, protecting them. So obviously the loss of Undercity, he wouldn't have been best pleased with at all. No. Jaina is awesome. Bit too awesome, if you ask me. Because that was the other problem with that first cinematic. It immediately, because my first thought when I saw the flying ship was, oh, that's cunning. So now she could fly an entire army over the fortifications. At which point you start to think to yourself, so there's no such thing as a siege anymore in World of Warcraft. There are no sieges. Jaina, fly you all over the walls. And then I started thinking, but I didn't mention this in the review video because it wasn't really directly related to the cinematic. I started to think, hang on a minute, why were we besieging Lordaeron with siege towers? Why didn't we just fly people over? Why wasn't that a thing? And I know they tried to come up with this bollocks at the end with that idiot gnome saying, oh, I've only got a few flying machines, but you're welcome to use the, like, 4 that I've got. I mean, I suppose that makes sense because gnome flying machines are always breaking. Maybe that's the reason. But from a Horde point of view, they've got goblins. They make proper flying machines. You know, you'd think Horde could just... Why did she make Sourfang break a path through Felwood? Why didn't the Horde just get a load of goblin flying machines and fly over the bloody thing? Oh, it just... Every time... I'm hell-bent now on just moaning about the storyline because they keep doing things that make me go, hang on a minute. It's like one of those proper moments from the last Star Wars film where they flew the ship into the ship and you think, hang on a minute, why haven't they been doing that all the time then? Sorry, I'm missing things, aren't I? Your quest log was full and bugged out, the new quest that came out today. So you have to wait for your ticket to review. Oh dear. Oh dear. What zones would you like to see updated for Warfronts? None. Every time they update zones, I dislike it. I don't want them mucking about with anything. I know it's not quite the same thing. I would rather they left it alone. Update the new zones that I don't care about. Update Blade's Edge Mountains. I hate Blade's Edge Mountains. They can't make that worse. You liked that intimate moment between Nathanos and Sylvanas. I don't think Sylvanas cares about anyone, really. She might have a little bit more regard for Nathanos purely because he's totally loyal to her. I don't really see her anymore as possessing any thought for anyone else, which she used to do. I don't think she does anymore. Blizzard are laying out a few breadcrumbs at the moment with possible storylines. See, people see it as breadcrumbs. I don't. I just see it as they do a thing because they need to tell a story at the time and then they drop it. That's not leaving breadcrumbs. That's just doing a thing because it's needed at the time. And sometimes maybe in the future they'll pick it up again, but that doesn't mean to say they always would have done or that they'd planned to. It just means they get stuck for an idea later on and think about, oh, well, we could continue this thing that we left alone. You suppose since there is flying that countermeasures exist as well. Yeah, but here's the thing. There's also countermeasures to siege engines and slowly trying to batter a stone wall down. You know, I would think that anti-aircraft is not going to stop as much aircraft as siege defences against a slowly moving force of wooden towers. I mean, Sylvanas took one of them out on her own in the cinematic. You believe the whole attack on television was created by Sourfang? No! What? You what? He was not the one that created the strategy. What you on about? No part of that was his strategy. The only strategy he had to come up with was getting away through Fellwood, because she left that up to him without any plan at all. I don't spend any time at all at Toshley Station. I hated Blade's Edge Mountain so much, I don't think I even made it that far. First time in. Sylvanas used Nathanos as a concubine. Ugh. Ugh. Undead sex. Things might fall off and get... Oh, no. No, 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 no. Anyway, there's no blood. There's no blood pumping. The Alliance have the Vindicar. Why haven't they used it? It's probably an elaborate bluff. It's probably knackered again. You know, if run out of batteries, all they can do to just keep it in the air or in orbit, wherever the hell it is now. Gammon is pulling all the strings in a bid to become war chief. Well, shouldn't he become leader of the Tauren first? Not that it would be very difficult to challenge Bane. He's such a wet flannel. Why fly troops when you can use mages or Illyria void magic? Well, that is a good point, Daniel. Exactly. They could have done that too, yes. It just made the whole siege complete nonsense. You know, the whole thing just became a nonsense. Because this is the problem. Like, initially, you're okay with the idea of a siege because you think, well, it's a fantasy thing. Fantasy, you know, stories tend to be set round about medieval levels of technology. So you're sort of okay with it. And then you realise that wizards are a thing. And actually, yeah. And you could argue... Yeah, you could sort of argue, okay, we can prevent people just teleporting in because we can have magical wards around the whole thing. But like you've just said there, Illyria had no trouble breaking in at all. Sylvanas will probably retire and walk off to the horizon. I think she will, literally. That is actually my literal prediction. Like I've already said, I think... You know, Thrall takes the ashes to Zandalar. The Zandalari tell him, oh, Vol'jin was tricked. It was an old god ploy. The lower spirits, who are all around them at this place, certainly didn't tell Vol'jin to appoint Sylvanas. They'll go, Brumsandi, did you tell him? No, I didn't tell him. And then that'll be that. Sylvanas will go, oh shit, I've been played like a, you know. And then she'll do something, sort of a sacrificial thing, and then she'll realise that she's been played, and she will step back as not only leader of the Horde, but leader of the Forsaken. Nathanos becomes leader of the Forsaken, probably, and that's that. She becomes Thrall Mark II. If I were invited to roleplay either Ian or Law at the beginning, which would I choose to play? I don't know. I can remember Law's lines more easily. Just have to say makes sense every now and then, don't you? Makes sense. Makes sense. Makes sense. Yeah, I could probably do Law. And why Jaina the most powerful mate? Well, she bloody is, isn't she? She's massively powerful now. I've never seen anything like it. I can't even comprehend. And how much of a show-off was she with the ship as well? That was the thing that's got me, right? First of all, how did Anduin know that she could do all that barrage thing against the walls? I've never seen Jaina do anything like that before. I've never seen any mage do any of that before. But anyway, somehow he knew. Intuition, maybe. King's intuition. So then Jaina banks the ship and then fires magical purple bolts out of the cannons. Now here's the thing. Those cannons are real cannons. They're corroded because they've been in the bottom of the sea for quite a few years. They're useless as cannons. She's firing magical things out of them. She doesn't need to do that. It's her magical bolts. Why didn't she just fire them out of her hands? She's showing off. She's that powerful that even in a super serious situation like the middle of a battle, she's got time to showboat. No pun intended. So, you know, that's how awesomely powerful she is. What's my favourite zone? Whatever, or in BFA? Did I join the Horde to deliberately undermine their war effort? Yeah, I thought I'd bring them down from the inside. I'm going to go around whispering what a cock Sylvanas is till everyone believes it. Cannons were conduits of arcane magic. They were corroded scraps of metal. She was showing off. She didn't have to do that. What happened to the ship? No, it's still somewhere. She landed it probably and then did a thing later on. I don't know. She probably teleported it somewhere. No, I don't hate Blade's Edge Mountains because the gnomes there. I didn't even know there were gnomes there. The reason I hated Blade's Edge Mountains is because it was an arsehole to get around. And when you died, the corpse run was indescribable. So I eventually gave up on Blade's Edge Mountains while I was leveling in TBC and went somewhere else. The ship was in remarkably good condition to say it's been submerged, and the fact that it wasn't damaged while she raised it. The masts were not broken at all when she raised it up. And yes, I also couldn't see much actual battle damage, which you would expect to see in a sunken ship. So indeed, so not only did she raise it from the depths, but she patched it up a bit as well, while still making the timbers look old. That's quite impressive. She is a super wizard. She's absolutely impressive as a wizard. She needed the ship as her arcane focus. What, because it's a magical ship? Is that it? Is that what makes it a good focus? What's the purpose of being so powerful you can't show off? Well, quite. Okay. Yes. The thing is that people have said that the ship you go to Kul Tiras on, and maybe it is. The problem is that the ship you go to Kul Tiras on looks a bit smarter than that. And we've only got so much time to do it up. Because even though it looked in remarkably good condition, as you just said, it still looks pretty scabby as ships go. They teleport onto the ship at the end of the cinematic. Fine, that's fine. I didn't actually see what they teleported onto. I assumed it was an Alliance airship, only not because I'd seen it there, but because the decking looked in quite good condition. Much better condition than the hull. God mode moments are just a mask for bad writing. Well, there's so much bad writing. The worst writing, and I suppose it'll be up now, my review, was the end of the second cinematic. It was the most retarded thing I've seen them do in a cinematic. I cannot criticise it strongly enough. Because, so, at the end of the cinematic, what's happening? You've got Anduin, Gen, Jaina and Illyria running into the throne room to capture or kill Sylvanas, right? When they go in there, Sylvanas, far from trying to flee, is reclining nice and relaxed on the throne. If that were me, I'd be shitting myself. If I were Anduin, I would tell Illyria to shoot her in the face there and then. Or tell Gen to rip her heart out. Then they have a little bit of banter. Then she stands up and starts walking towards Anduin. Why do they let them do that? She gets face to face, close enough to kill him, and they allow it. It's the most retarded shit ever. And then, as if it's not bad enough that all the alliance leaders are as thick as shit, Sylvanas doesn't kill him. Why doesn't Sylvanas kill him? I cannot understand how people can watch that cinematic and not question the god-awful things that happen in it. I don't think midichlorians are a thing in WoW. But I find it remarkable that just how powerful. I mean, she seems to me to be like Guardian of Tirisfal level or above of power, without anyone enhancing her powers. No, there is no Guardian, and they wouldn't make Jaina the Guardian anyway. She's too unstable. But she's super powerful. Manduin to kill Sylvanas. He's not going to kill her. At least everyone made a successful roll versus magic to avoid death from Banshee Scream. I somehow think Illyria would have been fine. I'm guessing it would have been shadow magic. Besides Hyandu, he didn't win anything. What was the purpose of staying behind? Exactly. If her purpose was not to assassinate Anduin, what was the point? Because here's the thing. If those characters had had any sense at all, they would have killed Sylvanas. Now, given that she knew that there's people who could kill, there's no way she could take on all four of them. In fact, from what we've just seen, there is zero way she could take on Jaina. There is no way in hell. But all four of them, not a chance. The last time she fought Gen was a no-score draw. Except Gen got what he wanted out of it, which was basically to piss Sylvanas off. So, the last encounter between Sylvanas and Gen was a draw. So now she's up against Gen, Anduin, Illyria, who also said that she regret, because there's no like familial loyalty anymore. She says she regrets not killing Sylvanas, so she's prepared to kill her. And Jaina, obviously, she hates the whole Horde. She will kill her in an instant. So why would Sylvanas put herself in the position? Because do you know what? Do you know that YouTube channel, how it should have ended? If they did that cinematic, all four of them would come into the throne room and chop her into bits, and then and then it'd cut to all the other Horde leaders in the blimp above, looking down, going, "Oh yeah, she probably shouldn't have stayed behind to gloat," because so stupid. Sorry, I'm missing comments again. Every expansion has to have a Khadgar, even if it's alliance only. It's only actually a woman. Well, there doesn't seem to be one in BFA. Because what Khadgar has done for the last two expansions is what Wrathion did before that, which is to act as a guide throughout the main story line. If anyone's doing that this time, it's Magni. But there isn't one who's ever present as Wrathion and Khadgar were. So they don't seem to have that guide as much. Horde's Jaina is that Zandalari princess. Ah, but it's not. Because, little spoiler, Talanji, there's a scenario next week. The Horde one doesn't work. The Alliance one isn't the same. And basically, Talanji is scared shitless of Jaina. Without giving anything else away. She's no match for her. And she knows it. They have made Illyria... They've basically made her into Superman or Superwoman in this case. It's a bit like in the Justice League film. You know, Superman came up at the end and basically kicked the shit out of the baddie. They couldn't have had him there earlier on because then the film would have had to have been a lot shorter. Because that's what Superman does. Unless you've got some kryptonite on you, he turns up and kicks the shit out of whatever. But the problem is that Jaina isn't susceptible to kryptonite, so they haven't really got anything like that to use. They've made her, I think, too powerful, really. Sylvanas didn't die because the diminished returns effects. What's... Hold on. Am I missing something? Speaking of the angel thing, what, Herja, that Sylvanas captured, I don't know that Sylvanas could necessarily... Well, Herja just teleported away as soon as she got free, didn't she? If that's what you're talking about, I might be missing something there. And yes, Malfurion was actually beating Sylvanas, despite what she said, until Saurfang came along. Because he had twice as much health as she did. I paid very careful attention to it. She counted on all four of them being honourable enough not to murder in the throne room. There's nothing. It's not an issue of honour. They went in the throne room to specifically stop her doing any more damage. There's only two ways you achieve that. You either capture her or you kill her. And they didn't do either of those things. They didn't demand that she submit, and they didn't kill her. They should, as soon as she got up out of that throne and started walking towards them, Anduin should have been shouting at her to sit down. We're taking you in. And as soon as she took another step, she should have had her guts ripped out by Gen, face shot out by Illyria, and the rest of her frozen by Jaina. Simple as that. And then Anduin could have come along and smashed the ice statue with his sword thing. I can't remember what it's called, sorry. It would have been more productive to just let them take the city, think they've won, then blow the blight bombs. Yes, it would. But they were trying to defend it. So I think the blight bomb, the booby traps, was a contingency plan rather than the aim. I don't think she wanted to relinquish the Undercity. She evacuated everyone because, you know, they were up against a very large force. And I think it was a contingency rather than the plan. Oh, Aya. Sorry, it was Aya. You're quite right. But she still teleported away. Is it Aya? Anyway, whatever it was, still teleported away. Will they just leave Malfurion and Tyrande now until next expansion? I don't think I've seen any sign of them in the beta, so they might do. Is it just you that's noticed dual crafting gems from Legion are stronger than the BFA ones? If that is the case, I haven't noticed, but if it is the case, they'll change it. It did happen before. Might have even happened before Legion. Like something went a bit mad. But there have been issues like that before. They'll fix it if that's the case. No Sylvanas raid boss in future. No. That would... first of all, I don't think that's the trajectory the storyline is headed. But obviously, like, you can't actually accurately predict a trajectory anyway. Not because Blizzard have thrown various possible paths open, but just because their story writing is shit. And you know, anything could happen. You know. For all we know, you know, the TARDIS could come in and the Doctor might, like, take her back in time or something to when she wants such a dick. Anything could happen because Blizzard will do the most ridiculous things in the storylines. But that would get them into a lot of shit. You've got to bear in mind, they are already in a lot of shit. It even prompted, I don't know whether anyone saw, it even prompted Chris Metzen to tweet, you know, oh, you don't know how the story's going, just, you know, wait it out and you'll see that it's going to be great. Which is basically coded language for keep buying the game, keep subscribing, and if you're not entirely happy at the end of the story, well, we'll have another story to go then, and that'll be totally awesome, by the way. So, yeah. Malfurion versus Sylvanas should have been like Thrall versus Garrosh. Oh, yeah, sorry, I missed my point. So the point I was going to make is, if they ever made Sylvanas a boss, you'd find out about it before you found out the story. And people would be griefing Blizzard like you won't believe about, oh, it's just Garrosh 2.0. You're reusing storylines, you unoriginal bastards. Because they would have no way of saying, oh, but, you know, the story, you don't know what the story's like yet. You'll see that it's really great. People will just go, no, you're just reusing it. Because even though I think there have been plot holes in the stories before, I have never face-palmed as much as I have with this latest one. There are just so many things that make no sense. What storyline would you expect for the end of WoW? The awakening of Azeroth to become like Super Titan. That's what I would expect to be the end of WoW. And then the Warcraft story can carry on in some other direction from there. Would Maiev be pissed with Sylvanas now? No, she would. I think she'd... no Night Elf would not care about Teldrassil, quite frankly. She'd be amazingly unhappy, I imagine. Will Azeroth be corrupted? Nah. They wouldn't let the old... Because the whole point is, even though this also makes no sense, the whole point is that, you know, like, a whole pantheon of Titans can't defeat anything, really. But a single Void Titan, apparently that can destroy the universe. Apparently. The Void Lords certainly seem to think so. So no, I don't think she'd be corrupted. I think, like I've already said, I think this expansion we're going to take out the old gods as a threat to Azeroth. I mean, Uldir is the clue for that one, really. And Legion, I think, you know, the twin clues of Legion, the whole story of Legion, and Uldir just get me to thinking old gods are basically done with in 2 years' time. And then after that, whatever. Something, you know. The story seems to be heading the way of antagonising Sylvanas for the cheap trick of letting us know that even though she's evil, she was rather right, like being in the face of old gods. But she's not in the face of old gods. What she's doing at the moment is helping the old gods. That's what I think. I think she doesn't intend to, but she is unwittingly helping the old gods. And it's going to be... That's the whole point of Thrall taking Vol'jin's ashes to Zandalar. I am 100% certain of that. Do I think the Azeroth Titan would look like a troll or Tauren? Based on the fact they're native species. No. Because I don't think they... No. They're not really. I don't think any of the flesh creatures are really supposed to be properly native. I mean, all right, I suppose the trolls were there. Have we hit the point where Golden is writing the story yet? No, I don't think she will ever write the story. She will just try and make the best of a bad job. You know, the person writing the story, apparently, is this George Sound. Who on earth needs a word like this? It's Krstic. I don't know how that would be pronounced. I thought Welsh was bad. You guess when Azeroth wakes up, we're ready to conquer the universe. I don't think we're supposed to be conquering the universe. I'm not quite sure what Azeroth will do, I have to say. I have to confess, I don't really know what to do. Other than the fact, if you put it this way, if we could kill old gods without harming the world soul, Azeroth, then it could be argued that her mission can then be to use this technology to go around, and whenever she sees a world that's infested with old gods, she'll know how to take care of them without damaging the world. When is the Ashara Warbringers video? I don't know. It's got to be this week because BFA's out next week, so maybe tomorrow. We are basically parasites now gaining power from her blood. Yes, exactly. But she understands. I mean, remember, Magni's her speaker. She's given me, I don't know about you, but she's given me a neck, a fancy new neck. Or she's going to. So she's quite happy with me. She understands that, you know, that we're going to do good in the long run. She's not giving Sylvanas a neck. I noticed that. Stick, is it? Right. Anyway, that's whose fault it is. When is the Essential Guides coming out? I am going to have to now work on that this week. I'm going to have to trust to Blizzard that they don't make any changes till at least 8.1. And the bastards had better not. So, yeah, it'll be out for some time at the weekend. Because that's going to have to be my job now to just go with it as it is now. This week. Maybe the lower are corrupted. Well, some lower are corrupted. That's actually part of the story of BFA. But one of them we punch in the face. Is there another one that gets corrupted? Another we basically kick their heads in anyway. So although there are corrupted lower, I don't know that they were corrupted when Vol'jin was listening to his whispers. They may have been. Because it may have been corrupted lower that were whispering to him. That's perfectly possible. What if it's old god blood were collected? It's not old god blood. We know what old god blood looks like. We collected it in Wrath of the Lich King. It's called Saronite. Am I looking forward to getting weapon drops again? No, only if I get a good one. But yes, I am. What about Wrathion? Where does he fit in? Exactly. Because they just dropped him. They dropped Wrathion, even though, if anyone was thinking about it, Wrathion had to be in Legion. Even if he didn't play a major part, he had to be in attendance. But he wasn't. They could have just stuck him there. They could have had him at the Broken Shore. He didn't have to give out any quests or anything. He could have just been there, because that's clearly where he would have been. But no. And that's what I mean about their storytelling. It's so bullshit. It was so easy. They didn't have to come up with a storyline for him. They just had to have him there. We get the neck from Magni, yes. Where else are we going to get a gift from Azeroth from? We get a necklace from a Titan to go out and harvest the crap that hurts. Well, it's not hurt. The blood has already come out. Azeroth isn't persuading us to go and mine for it. It's already on the surface. In other words, it's like dried blood on the skin. It's already come out. I don't think Azeroth's that bothered. And she knows that we're going to do some good with it as well. I think what she takes exception to is the goblins actively tunneling and mining to try and get more of it. What if Azerite doesn't mean Azerothite but Azerite? Well, we know it doesn't. Because Magni's already explained that one. Wrathion disappeared from the Alliance Embassy. As far as I know, I don't remember. But he should have been in Legion is the thing I would say. I have no doubt they have no idea how to write anyone. They ain't got a clue. Wasn't the Well of Eternity the blood of... Well, it was a wound, not specifically... I mean... It was a wound that was bleeding, so I suppose. We are picking Azeroth scabs, yes. Or maybe just dried blood. It's not necessarily a scab. I don't know. Am I going to put out any tips for gearing for the raid? I will do... or it will be my intention to do an Azerite traits one, but they're still tuning them. So I can't really... I suspect... Well, it's not suspect. I know that ultimately it's going to come down to this. Sim it for different situations. There is not going to be a trait that is going to be the one you take for any given situation. You will want different traits for different bosses. You will want different traits, you know, for doing dungeons compared to raids and stuff like that. You are potentially going to want multiples of the same Azerite armor in order to be able to have access to both choices, you know, and all the rest of it. Magni could be talking to the old gods, not Azeroth. No. No. He's no mug. Wrathion is serving burgers in McDonald's with Elvis and Lord Lucan. Well, I'm never likely to see him then because I don't really like McDonald's. The King of Dimes has made a porn. Yes, but you've got to remember, those sayings of Il'gynoth are not prophecy. Il'gynoth is a servant of the old god, and their whispers are therefore there for the purposes of getting us to think a particular thing. Most of them, if not all of them, may be lies. And even if it's not a lie, it might be intention. Also, you've got to think about it from Il'gynoth's point of view. All right? He might see Magni as being a pawn of Azeroth, because Azeroth is the bad guy. As far as the old gods are concerned, Azeroth is the bad guy. So, any servant of a bad guy you call a pawn. So they might be calling Magni a pawn because Azeroth is using him. Any idea when the beta is going to close? I don't know. It may still... I think in Legion it was still open after Legion launched. So it may still last another couple of weeks. But I don't know. I don't think they've said. Well, I've not seen anyway. Sod multiple armor. Sorry. You know how, you know, you had all these legendaries in Legion? You know, that's how it is. They want us. That's why they're making it difficult. Because think about it this way: they could have just had us be able to switch Azerite traits like talents. If you're in a rested area or with a tome, you can change your Azerite traits. It's not what happens. You know, they want you to pay for it, and a cost that ramps up. So you can actually get away, I think. I haven't looked too closely into it, but I think you can get away with changing it every now and then. But I don't think you can get away with it very often. So you've noticed you've not seen any gnomes in any expansion cinematic? Of course not. What an idea. I mean, it was ridiculous enough when they included one in an in-game cinematic. I mean, that was a watershed moment in, like, ludocracy. Is that even a word? Don't know. But you're certainly not going to see one in an actual cinematic. No. What? Pink-haired, mustachioed gnome. The cinematics are there supposed to inspire awe. Can't really do that with gnomes. You'll also notice that they were pretty much the only race not represented in the Warcraft movie. You even had elves with the silly waggly ears. I thought they looked completely ridiculous. I looked at those elves with the eyebrows and the ears, and I thought to myself, if I wasn't a fan of Warcraft and I didn't really know what was going on, I would think they look ridiculous. But they put those in, but not gnomes, because that's a step too far. You think we put too much stock in Il'gynoth? Well, people certainly do. It's tantalising to try and work out what they mean, but you do always have to bear in mind is, one, they might be lies. Two, they're from the old god's point of view. Three, they might not be lies in the usual sense. They might be the intentions of the old gods, but that doesn't make it prophecy. That just means it's what they intend to happen. Doesn't mean to say it's what will happen. You know, like at the hour of her third death, they will usher in our coming, or whatever, something like that. That might be their intention. Doesn't mean it's prophecy. Thoughts on the Belf racial being just as strong as before? Hold on. Oh shit. In Mythic Plus. Yeah, it could still be really useful. I would still prefer, surely, I would still say a silence would be better, and here's why. If Blizzard ever get the impression that it becomes too powerful for a given scenario in Mythic Plus, you know what they're going to do. They're going to make that debuff immune to Arcane Torrent. They'll just do that. That's an easy change for them to do. Whereas when it was a silence, they're not. That wouldn't be the case. Obviously, certain casts can't be interrupted, and therefore the silence wouldn't work anyway. But you know, whenever it does work. So yeah, I can see Blizzard stopping Arcane if they think that people are just going to take Blood Elves for it, and Arcane Torrent becomes the way to deal with it. They'll just make it immune to Arcane Torrent. I think you can start Irons as soon as you unlock. I'm not sure. The thing is, in beta, might be different. Because sometimes they allow certain things in beta that are there for the purpose of testing. And it's not always exactly how it'll work when it goes live. I've been caught out by things like that before. Do I think Sylvanas has been played by a higher power? Yes. It's obvious to me. Absolutely obvious that she's been played by the old gods. So clear. If final boss ever get their war crimes animation underway, what WoW character, given the opportunity, would you like to do the voice for? I didn't know they were doing one. I don't know. I don't think I would be a good voice actor, I have to say. If I had to convince somebody to play Paladin with a single sentence, what would it be? Can't be gnomes. Simple. We've got an order hall where no gnomes are allowed. Gnomes cannot get in. The only time you will ever see a gnome in the Paladin order hall is via the Death Knight cinematic. But that's really just an illusion. It's not the proper order hall. What allied race not in the game do I want? I don't actively want any allied race. However, and also it has to be, we have to bear in mind what Blizzard have said. They have themselves have said they don't want to have the place awash with allied races. They don't want allied races outnumbering the proper races. But if we assume that there's going to be I mean, we already know about 8 allied races. That's already a lot. So if we're going to have, let's say, a 9th and a 10th, I think the most likely is Alliance Undead. I don't know what the Horde one. What happened to Xalatath when our artifact soaked Sargeras' weapon? Well, is that the one that chirps in your ear? In which case, I think it does still chirp in your ear. And if it does, then you've got your answer. And if it doesn't, you've also got your answer. Jinyu, what? They're not Horde. They're Alliance. They could have, but that wouldn't be an allied race either. The whole point, this is where people went wrong with the Vulpera thing. It might be a playable race, but I don't believe it will be. Because people seem to be missing out obvious things. But it can't be an allied race, because an allied race specifically is a race that already exists in the game. It's just like a variant of it. That's what an allied race is. It's a variant of a race that already exists playable in the game. Oh, you want Jinyu on Alliance? Why? If there's anything even more pathetic than Vulpera, it might just be Jinyu. Does anyone have Discord? I think everyone has. What? It's an odd thing to ask, Suggy. Don't I wish Alliance kept the Paladin, Horde kept the Shaman? No. It wasn't good in vanilla. It wasn't at all good. You know, I mean, it came at a time when I mean, it's the sort of decision they wouldn't make now, ironically. But it was born out of a need to balance the game. They didn't really think too much about balance in vanilla because they were just glad to have got the game out there. Oh, I didn't actually go and do the Culling of Strathairn to become a gnome. No, I forgot about that. I'll have to try and remember to do it at some point. A new robotic race of gnomes. Yeah, but you say that, but gnomes are robots. That's not new. That's actually their proper form. You know, the likes of Jeeves that's a proper gnome, because that's what gnomes are. They're mechanical. That's the original form of the gnome. The gnomes that you're thinking of, the fleshy ones, that's gone wrong. That's a mistake, and that's official. That's not my opinion. That's actually the official law. Just like humans technically are Vrykul gone wrong, you know, and dwarves are earthen gone wrong, and would you believe it, elves are trolls gone wrong. But gnomes, yeah, gnomes were mechanical. So Jeeves and Blingtron, they're the proper gnomes. You notice that the proper gnomes are useful as well. Hi Darren, thank you very much. Now that we've seen what war mode turns into with all the shenanigans in Darkshore, thoughts on war mode? My opinion hasn't changed about war mode. I think it's a brilliant feature. I love it. You know, I almost forgive all the things I moan about of Blizzard because they've put war mode in the game. I think it's spectacular. No, I don't mean that. Trolls were there first. It's like the reverse Tolkien effect in Warcraft. Why hasn't Atrig's reaction been a thing? Just sound fine. Where is Atrig now? Is he still... Did I see him in BFA at some point? Can't remember. Is he still on the Broken Shore? Oh, is he a follower? Oh, I didn't play my warrior enough. I thought I'd seen him at some point. I can't remember if I've seen him in BFA. I haven't really seen enough on the Maga. I got disinterested in the Maga Orcs once it became clear we weren't going to be able to get them for a while. I mean, I suppose that for a while has turned into quite soon now, but still. You ended up with 3 or 4 legendaries from Blingtron. Gave me nothing. I think when I used to bully all the gnomes, it didn't quite understand that I didn't mean it for them, and he never gave me a legendary present. Sourfang brings in the Magar. That seems a bit strange, doesn't it? Does he? I should have kept my eye on exactly how we this. How does it make sense for Sourfang? I suppose they'll do a story for it. Although I was nearly going to say I suppose it will make sense, but maybe it won't. So you've got Sourfang, who's very soon not going to be in the Horde, bringing the Magar Orcs into the Horde. Does that strike anyone as odd? I'll wait until I see the story. Maybe it will make sense. Got to give them some credit. Atrig might make more sense. The quest is there now. Oh, you can start it now, can you? Okay, I didn't know that. Green skin, brown skin is all in the past. Well, it's always a curious thing, isn't it? I think, you know, the idea is it's the twin influence of Tolkien's orcs and Warhammer orcs, isn't it? So you've got the brown skin, which is supposed to be more evocative of Tolkien's orcs, even though the character is very different. And then the green skinned ones, because really they're Warhammer orcs. Seems strange to have new races that you can't become at the start of an expansion, but they're allied races, so it's always a different thing. Ranged centaurs would be a nice race, but the ranged implies a class, so... Well, as soon as a race comes in with a particular hairstyle, don't you usually get to, at some point, put them on other classes via the doofer, the barber shop? I was disappointed that the weapon I got on my US Paladin didn't Titan Forge, so I didn't actually end up getting an upgrade out of it, which is a shame. Warg and Goblin model updates never. Well, I don't know. It's like they say, it's on their list, but they have quite a long list, and it's not really near the top. Don't you think they look alright? I mean, I know obviously the races that have been done more recently look fancier, but I still think Goblins and Worgen look okay. What zone am I intended to start in? I don't even know which faction I'm going to be starting in yet. I now have to start thinking about finding a guild to join, which will just be there for Heroic and Mythic Plus. So yes, but if I were going to start on the Horde, see what you want to do, if you want to be cunning about it, you want to start in the zone that has the greatest challenge, because that's when your gear is best. So you're the most powerful early on. Now, I am thinking that, yeah, Voldun has some areas where there's a load of mobs and it's just quicker if you can steamroll through them. That is true. Nazmir is definitely for last because, like you say, that's a pretty straightforward zone. That's easy. Apart from anything else, when you go around Nazmir, there's in the blood troll area, you've got lots of little buffs to pick up, which do things like give you 50% leech or a load of extra damage. So, you know. On the Alliance side, I'm not sure because they're all okay. I don't know. But Nazmir, I think, out of all of them is the easiest zone, certainly. To do the major quests, the quest lines at least. You do want to do all zones a little bit. Yeah, basically keep an eye on your reputation. You want to do the major quest lines, but what you also want to do is just get yourself up to friendly. Make sure that you will be friendly with all of the zones, areas. And also don't leave Nazmir too late, because Nazmir is an important zone because of the Tortollan link there as well. Can you get a shout out? What for? So yeah, because when you hit level cap, you want to be straight into world quests, for which you need to be friendly with the 3 zone factions. Will we get orange orcs once green and brown start interbreeding? Brown and green make orange? What sort of paints have you got? Why are the Ebon Blade and Illidari okay killing each other? Hang on, have I missed have I missed something? Are the Ebon Blade and Illidari killing each other? Hello, Will. Assuming that's a pun on your name, I don't know. I haven't paid too much attention. I don't remember the Ebon Blade. I mean, the Ebon Blade don't necessarily like a lot of people. I mean, they picked a fight with the Paladins, which turned out to be a super bad idea. The faction war is forcing the Ebon Blade to go to civil war, same with the Illidari. Don't know. I've missed any reference to those two as part of BFA then in that case. I haven't noticed anyone in any of those doing anything. Do I think Worgans would get a new remodel? Well, at some point they... Well, I don't know. It depends how long the game's got to go. We're at that time now, aren't we, where we're thinking, well, the game's still super popular and profitable. But is it necessarily something Blizzard wants to keep going for indefinitely or what? I don't know. If they did keep it going and go, I mean, obviously they can keep it going for another 10 years easy, because as a lot of other games show, you don't actually need a lot of players for it to be profitable. And it's not like, obviously Blizzard's production values are much higher than other games like Lord of the Rings Online that I play at the moment, but it's not like they funnel lots of their profits into it. I don't know. I think it's only a few % they put back into it anyway. So they could keep going with the same level of quality for a long, long time. But I just think, apart from anything else, just the level you've got to get a character to. If we're not already at the point, surely we're at the point, or we're going to get to a point in a few years, where it's just not going to be worth leveling. Do I think Nathanos is going to betray Sylvanas? No. Under no circumstances do I think that. I honestly think, like I've already said what my prediction is for the Sylvanas storyline. I cannot believe it would be significantly different to that. I do not think that Sylvanas is going to be taken out. I think she is going to see that she needs to step down. I honestly think that. So I don't think anyone has to betray her. Thought Worgen was a band. Hang on a minute. What? Titan turned into over. Yeah, but I don't necessarily know what Project Titan was supposed to be exactly. I mean, we know that resources were diverted then to Overwatch, but whether it had, oh, mind you, there was that interview, wasn't there? I can't remember what was in it now. I don't know. Hasn't Ian or somebody at an equally high level within the company already gone on record saying a level squish has already been debated? But yes, he did. He said that at the Q&A, didn't he? He said, basically, you know, what he said was, oh, you think that the item level and stat squish cause problems. You wait to see what would happen if we squish the levels. But nonetheless, you've got to come to a point, surely, where you look at a game and you say, do you know what? You're basically saying, if we want to play this game, or if we want to create this character, that we have got to buy a level boost. Because I know, all right, some people will keep saying, oh, I really like the leveling. Fine, okay. But generally speaking, if someone's got a couple of characters and they want to make another one, most people are not going to relish the prospect of getting to level 200. You know, it's just too much. The time it would take. So, I mean, I'm already at the point, I'm going to be honest, I'm already at the point, if I want, I mean, I shouldn't need one, because I already have multiple of most classes and all of classes at least level 100, apart from mage, actually. I've got a level 96 mage. Now, so I don't have to start from scratch. And if I wanted it to be a different race, well, I could just race change it. But if I did have to level another character, I'll be honest, I would just pay for the level boost. You know. Yeah, I don't know if... But yeah, they're not going to do it. They're clearly not going to do it. I mean, I still don't understand why they ever stopped increasing them by 5. Because for a couple of expansions, they increased the level cap by 5, as if they recognised that the numbers were getting too big and they want to slow it down. But then they went back to 10. Again, I suppose there's some reason for it, but I don't actually know what it is. I can guess, but I don't really want to guess. How long can the current engine keep going via updates before they reach a game limit? Like I keep saying, Lord of the Rings Online, which has a level cap of 110 itself, has a far inferior game engine. Far inferior. It is still going. So, I'm going to say quite a long time. And at least Blizzard update things. They improve the infrastructure a little bit. You're leveling a character right now. The goal isn't to hit max level. If the goal isn't to hit max level, if the goal is just to do the quest, then that's fine. It would be more fine, I would argue, if you had proper level scaling all the way through, so you could at least go and do which bits of the storyline you wanted to in whatever order you liked. That's what's so good about ESO. EverQuest is still going. Wasn't it EverQuest 2? I didn't know that the original EverQuest was still going. But I don't know. I never played it. I have a WoW community for heroic raiding with viewers. No. I'd like to do it in a semi-organised way. So I would actually... It's like anything. I always say, people, you know, even though the communities thing I think it's good, I think guilds are better, ultimately better. And I would ideally be looking for a guild. The original is still going, is it? Really? I did not know that. Well, there we are then. Something that even predates WoW. Still going and releasing updates. So the answer to that is that WoW might outlast me if they wanted it to. I'm sure they don't want it to. But if they did. Ian said in a Q&A a while back that they thought 5 levels for an expansion didn't feel as good. No, that doesn't... Well, no answer where they're saying doesn't feel as good is ever satisfactory because, well, it's a feeling and therefore is subjective. It's not based on any market research. I mean, for a start, they shouldn't be basing it on what they think feels good. They should be basing it on what the player base thinks feels good. But they'd never poll the player base on these issues. Whatever happened to the guild even before? Nothing. It's just I'm not going to be Mythic Raiding in BFA. I'm stopping Mythic Raiding. Which means that I don't need to be in a Mythic Raid group. Oh, Murloc Death Squad. Oh no, I did leave that. But again, you know, like, feel 5 levels would have been fine. 5 levels would have been fine. It still would have been high numbers. Now, what would we be? So what have we had now? We've had Ward and Legion. So at the moment, we'd actually be level 100 if they'd have kept that, wouldn't we? Is that right? Yes. We'd be level 100. We'd be getting ready to go to level 105. So it'd still be too high, but it wouldn't be as high. And at the next expansion, it'd be 110 as opposed to 130. So for each extra expansion they think they want to bring in, you know, it's just... I mean, I am still more in favour of you level to a particular cap, which never changes no matter how many expansions you bring out, and then you have an alternative levelling mode. I don't even see why you need to level at all. It just seems to be, but it's a thing now. It's just the way it is. You need levels to solo old content. Why do Blizzard insist on making tabards rep bound instead of account wide for transmog? Oh, I didn't even know they had. Well, in that case, I don't know. There's an awful lot of things. Although they've improved things over Legion, there's an awful lot of things that I think should be account wide that are not. I think almost everything should be account wide except maybe power gear. I think everything else should be account wide, including reputation. Greatest injustice in WoW is MOP 2.0. Oh, you sound like you're talking about PvP here. Oh, they had an enchant but didn't get the illusion. Okay. They need an alternative advancement system. Well, need is probably not the right word now just because the game's so old, but it would have benefited from one, yes. I agree with that. The problem is they can't do it now because, like they said themselves, if they squish it, then they're going to create themselves problems. So. They could scale the XP required for a level low at the beginning, rise to current content. Well, see, for my money, I don't see the point in leveling above us. The whole concept of leveling comes from older RPGs, like basically Dungeons and Dragons. You don't get to level 100 and bloody 20 in Dungeons and Dragons. Jeez, the idea. So it goes completely out of whack with an MMO. Completely. And you know, they really should have thought about it. There's no need for it. You know, there's other reasons they can give for doing the quests in the new zones when an expansion comes out, other than levels. You know, they can be there as attunements to unlock certain pieces of content. As it basically is anyway. It already fulfills that criteria because we get rep from it. I mean, that would actually almost be good enough as an alternative advancement thing. We have artifact power. Sorry, I nearly called it Azerite power there. Naughty. But we have artifact power. That's an alternative, you know, leveling process. You can have a different variant of that each expansion. There's no need for us to have levels. But, you know, but it's just one of those things now. It's a core part of the game, and they will not change it. But it'd be nice to think if they did do another MMO, that it would be significantly different to WoW. And that other MMO wouldn't necessarily have to be a Warcraft MMO. You know, the StarCraft and Diablo kicking around, not doing anything at the moment. I'm not saying I would relish an MMO of either of those games, but they are titles they have. I would like to think that they would not do... that they would not have the WoW infrastructure. You've been saying that since Mop just used the zone leveling to tell a better story and tune to everything. Well, exactly, Elgin. I mean, that would be more than good enough. The game needs truly random events and dungeons, so you'll never know what the setup is or which bosses you'll face. Oh, no. No, because the problem is you'd create a paper, rock, scissors type situation where your setup will not work for it. So you have to wait until you randomly spawn a setup that will work for it. I mean, there was a situation. There have been fights like that actually. The first one that I remember was Nefarian, like original Nefarian in Blackwing Lair. And what would happen is, so you had the two gates where the Draconids spawned from, but they were random. But it wasn't random each pull. It was random for the week. So what you would do first time you got to Nefarian is you would just have a pull to see which ones you got. Then you'd wipe it, and then you would set yourself up to deal with them until you outgeared, and it didn't really matter. So there was a certain amount of that. And then, was it Spirit Kings in Mogashan Vaults, which on heroic mode, which was what we'd call mythic now, that had, I think the first one was always the same, and then it had a random order after it, and then I think they changed it. I think that initially it had a randomness to it, and the problem is that you can't. Raid bosses are tough to the point where they're virtually impossible, and it's only by knowing how they're going to react to certain situations that you can even beat them. Now, you could argue that if they reduced some of the tight mechanics, that they could increase the randomness of it, and you could still make a suitable raid encounter with more randomness in it. But that's not the way they do things. You want rep unlocks to be account wide, but you don't want it to be something where you do the same quest on 10 characters just because it gives a bunch of... Oh, no, I agree with that. You shouldn't be able to get Exalted in a day just because you've got 50 alts. I agree. It should be more of a shared thing. So if you do a piece of content on a character that... Like, I'll tell you how Elder Scrolls Online works. Not for reps, but for your secondary levels, what you call your champion points. So basically, your level cap is like level 50. That's what it always was when it first came out. Then after that, you get champion levels. Now, if I go on a character and I do some content, I do a zone. Then if I do the same zone on another character, I don't get the experience in the same way, as I understand it. But anyway, that's how I would do it there. So I totally agree. You shouldn't just be able to do the same world quest on 10 different alts or 20 or worse. You know, if you do it on one, then you've got your rep on that. If it's going to be shared across the account, then yeah, you've got to get it from different sources. I would certainly agree with that. And I don't think it would be difficult to set that up either. You still missed the champions boss in the tournament raid in Wrath. Well, you see, I didn't progress on that because I'd quit the game by then. Nobody liked that raid. I did hear it was unpopular. But someone must have liked it because, you know, Blizzard did it. You do only get champion points when you max out, but what I mean is even when I've got level 50, I haven't always got champions XP, or I don't think I have. But I don't know, I might be getting it wrong. How is the mission table implemented in BFA? Exactly the same as it is in Legion, only there's not such a wide range of missions. So you've got missions for rep, you've got missions for artifact power, there's missions for augment runes, there's missions for gold, can't remember if there's missions for other things. Missions for anything else? I'm trying to think if there's missions for follower items. Can't remember. You can craft follower items, and different professions craft different ones, but then they seem to be useful to themselves as well. Remind me why I'm stopping with Mythic for now. Well, there'll be a video on Friday about that, but in short, because it's a whole stack of things really, but the two very recent things that made me ultimately tip me over the edge. The thing that ultimately threw me over the edge was basically that work is going to be super difficult next year. Because here's the thing, with every other thing that I've been serious about hobby-wise, you know, if I had to come home from work one day and just think to myself, do you know what, this thing's happened, I need to work through the night on it. I've always been able to do that, always. You know, if I had to, like in judo, I actually injured my knee once, so I had to stop training for a good 2 months. But then I went back into it, built my strength up, I was off again. You know, that was fine. When I did Warhammer, you know, same sort of thing. You know, if I had to spend a night or something like that, or something happened in real life and I had to take care of it, didn't cause a problem. Mythic raiding, it causes a problem because Mythic raiding, you've got this set schedule, and although people understand emergencies and stuff like that, nonetheless, it's not good to come home like 2 hours before the raid and say, oh, I've got a shitload of work I need to do tonight. People aren't really going to understand that too much. And next year, I think it's going to happen a lot because I've got a load of extra work to do next year that I only found out about when we basically broke up, so a few weeks ago. That's the thing. I wouldn't say I really know. Well, I know judo. I couldn't do judo anymore. It's very many years ago, and I was a very different shape. So I wouldn't really be very good now. In fact, I wouldn't be at all good. So yes. Missions for raid loot. I don't know. I'm pretty sure. Didn't they say they weren't doing those? Because I think, well, I know they said in the Q&A that they were toning down the scope of mission tables. Now, although I don't recall them specifically saying that that means there wouldn't be the raid missions, I did. Asmongold just got a big Blizzard bear mount. Was that the one with the Murloc on its head? What, you mean the BlizzCon one? Ah, I never actually got that one myself. I nearly did. I thought about it. I got the Murloc costume, so I nearly thought about getting the mount, but I just decided it looked a bit silly. I have sometimes regretted it. Your followers on beta are epic with what you felt was very little time compared to Legional 1. Can't remember how long it took with Legion, I have to say. And certainly not with WoD. But, yeah, I mean, you've tested it, like, so you know. It might well be the case. But, again, I don't... Well, they did say that we were not supposed to be as involved with the mission table in BFA. I know they said that. But I don't know specifics other than that. Hang on a minute. Can we not bring him into the already infecting the preach videos? What's infecting the preach? What have I missed there? Asmongold? He is like... Oh, what? Pain in the ass. So, I knew this would happen. I've got to put a claim in. My cinematics review has been demonetized because, you know, it shows footage. So I'm going to have to put a thing in now saying it's a review. Anyway, never mind. No, he has. You say he hasn't reacted to one of my videos yet. It was a pain in the ass. He did once. And then I got... Because I woke up one time and I had a load of comments basically calling me a prick. I thought, what the fuck have I done to you? And it was because he played one of my videos on his stream and talked about it. And then some people on his stream didn't like it. So they felt the need to search the video out and write a load of pain in the arse comments. Pain in the arse. So, you know. Fortunately, the process doesn't seem to have been repeated since. Dear me. Can do without it. I get enough brainless comments as it is without that. What's my favourite zone ever? Duskwood. My favourite zone ever. I used to quite like wetlands as well. Obviously, when I'm talking about these zones, vanilla zones, I'm talking about pre-Cataclysm. But I would still say I like Duskwood now. I don't like it as much as I did. But I do still like it. But post-Cata... quite like Nagrand in World of Warcraft. I also quite like Nagrand in TBC. So Nagrand in both forms I approved of. Eastern Plaguelands was quite nice. But I did a lot of that. Yeah. Would I build my house in Duskwood? It's not really a sort of paladin-y place to build it, is it? You'd sort of feel you'd have to build it somewhere in the old Lordaeron type area. Feralus, I don't know. It was a bit annoying to get around Feralus. All those hills and trees everywhere. Now I have bad experiences of Jade Forest because when I was boosting characters through certain things, phasing would kill them. So I'd be flying a character of mine on another account and then would suddenly enter a different phase and it would fall from it doesn't happen anymore, thankfully. It would fall from the flying mount and die. So I used to have to keep going back, resing it, getting it back. Oh, it was a nightmare. I don't like Western Plaguelands now. I'm not really a fan of Eastern Plaguelands either, I have to say. But I actively dislike Western Plaguelands now. It used to be quite nice. I think they got parachutes then. It's just that they only lasted so long. Or you could just land on something and get eaten by something. So I don't know. However, what I do know is that we've come to the end of it now. We've gone 5 minutes over there. I am roasting, as you can probably tell. Feralus's Warfront is perfect. No, my God! Ugh. It's terrible terrain. Awful terrain. Not good for battles. But anyway, now I'm going to call it an end there. Thanks for coming on, everyone. I shall be on tomorrow on Twitch with my potentially last ever mythic raid. Certainly the last Antaurus mythic raid. So thank you all for coming on, and until next time.